We're pleased to welcome now Mandy Gunasekara, former EPA Chief of Staff during the first Trump administration. Also is the author of Y'all Fired, a Southern Belle's Guide to Restoring Federalism and Draining the Swamp. Hey, Mandy.
Hey, Gerard. Great to be with you.
Good to see you as well. So we are on the cusp of a whole new administration here inside a month of when that'll occur, or I guess just right at the month period. This subject of energy has been front and center, certainly throughout the entire campaign, because folks are tired of paying high prices at the pump. And they largely blame that on the current president and the Democrats, who have really, going back to the campaign of the 2020 cycle, have vowed to essentially end fossil fuels consumption in this country. I mean, Joe Biden said that quite directly. What might we expect? Let's start there. When President-elect Trump takes office, we got new Congress coming to town with Republicans in charge of both chambers. What, Mandy, can the president do just to improve on this situation from an executive order perspective? And what do we have to rely on Congress to do, really, to boost the supply and lower restrictions of fossil fuels?
There's a lot that he can do, and it couldn't be more different when it comes to energy. You had the institution of the war on fossil fuels from day one of the Biden administration. President Trump will reverse that. I imagine he will put out some sort of a day one executive order. It's going to talk about reinstituting energy dominance, and it will have a lot of directions from mainly EPA to undertake a reduction effort of existing regulations that just create red tape and cost and liability, and don't do anything to meaningfully improve the environment or public health. He'll also send directions to the Department of Energy. I'm really excited about Chris Wright, the nominee designee for running the Department of Energy. He's run Liberty Oil. He's been a long-standing operator in the field. He's served just about every single job you could, including running a major successful oil and gas company. So he's going to be a great voice and a great implementer of the energy dominance agenda. But Gerard, one of the most important things, and I know you understand this because you understand markets, the most important thing President Trump will do on day one, and he's been leading up to it, is send that signal to the marketplace that the U.S. oil and gas industry is open for business. And what that does, that's going to make capital pour in. That's going to get projects up and running. He's talking about permitting reform, which is extremely important in this space, just as much as reducing unnecessary regulations. So those are all things that can literally happen and begin on day one with the signing of an executive order.
Great point. The posturing, the messaging is every bit as important as the actual policy. I mean, that's how executives, investors, the industry, the markets, they key in on that. They're guided by that. And if they hear constant messaging, as we have heard the last 4 years from the Biden administration, we don't want to use fossil fuels, well, then they just clam up and they say, okay, we're not going to invest in that, which, of course, causes the supply to decrease and the price of everything to go up. I mean, that's been our experience the last 4 years.
That's exactly right. And the reality is today, 80% of our daily energy needs still come from coal, oil, and natural gas. So when your whole philosophy from a governing perspective is trying to shutter or shut down the development and use of that, that's going to make prices go up, and that's exacerbated inflation. It's made the price of oil susceptible to the whims of the international market, which has gone up and down and up and down. We have the tools to insulate our consumers from that inherently dynamic market. And so President Trump is definitely going to do that. That's going to change the game. You know, Congress has a role as well, though, and they could be very helpful. They have a tool, the Congressional Review Act, and we call them midnight regulations. That doesn't necessarily mean what they do from midnight on. Midnight really started the day after Election Day when they realized that Biden had lost and the agencies are busy passing all sorts of terrible regulations. Congress has the authority to do something called a resolution of disapproval under the Congressional Review Act, where they can essentially void an entire regulation. And so they have to pick and choose what's the most important, because it takes up precious floor time, and precious floor time in the Senate, which is going to be important for getting our nominees through. But they can pick and choose and go after some of the most egregious, violative, energy-focused regulations that we've been seeing coming down the pipe.
California, obviously off the rails on this matter. So is it by 2026, less than a couple of years from now, 35% of the vehicles sold in the Golden State must be electric, cannot be fossil fuels powered? By 2035, 100%, correct? Isn't that what I think they've implemented? So explain this, Mandy. Why was a waiver from Washington needed for them to implement this? Why couldn't the state just do that within the state?
Well, a little bit of legislative and legal history is really important here. When in the 1970s, when the Clean Air Act was passed, California was dealing with really bad smog and particle pollution. So the EPA sets national standards or federal standards. The waiver was created back in the 70s because there was a recognition that California had a unique and compelling, those are the important words in the Clean Air Act, a unique and compelling case for more stringent standards. So they did that in the context of particle pollution because it made sense. What they've asked for now and what EPA under Team Biden has granted and Team Trump can revoke and will defend, and I think they'll be very successful because you're on stronger legal footing, they are trying to make the same case with regards to greenhouse gases. And so EPA has granted them this waiver saying that they have some unique and compelling reason to reduce greenhouse gases. And there's 11 other states across the country that purportedly share this same unique and compelling reason. They have to have the waiver in order to set more stringent standards than what the federal standard is. The whole justification is on shaky legal footing. So that's why they need the waiver to set more stringent standards, which they already passed. What you referenced, one of their climate change laws that basically bans gas-powered vehicles. EPA grants the waiver. They can then go about doing it. And there's 11 other states across the country that have signed up for whatever California is doing, we're going to do as well.
I mean, this just happened in the last 24 hours, right, Mandy, that the EPA granted this waiver. Do you think this is just, scorched earth on the way out here?
Oh, yeah, for sure. They're doing two things. They're trying to create a lot of work that Team Trump has to come in to try and divert them away from achieving energy dominance and strategic policy goals the president has actually laid out. Number one, they're trying to create a lot of additional work, and they're trying to set up the country to fail across the board. And they know that California and these 11 other states represent about 30% of the U.S. auto industry. Nobody can meet those standards. I mean, the problem with California, okay, let's say they do meet that standard hypothetically by 2036 or 2031, whatever it is. They're going to have a lot of electric vehicles that don't have power to actually run. Because they can't even meet current demand. And so it's unrealistic. It's an irresponsible approach to regulating, but that's not what it's about. It's about setting up Team Trump to waste their time and set the country up for failure because they're sore losers.
That's just terrible. And the other point is all their various regulatory restrictions on just the supply of electricity in the state when you're talking about increasing the demand for electricity. So that sounds like that's set up for failure as well.
Yeah, that's right. Just, I think it was last week. It was a few days ago. Losing track of time. Always do during the holidays. But the Biden administration, they basically put a death knell on the development of Powder River Basin coal. This is the coal that provides the majority of coal power from Wyoming. They set a time limit. I think it's like past 2040 or somewhere around there that they said you can no longer actually develop this vital resource. And so they're trying to send an opposite market signal to that market that this is a dying energy development resource. And the crazy thing is California imports the majority of its energy from Wyoming. That gets the majority of its energy from coal. And the reason they do that is because California can't power their economy with all the renewable energy that they've built out. It just simply doesn't work. This
could cause even further exodus from the state, is what I'm thinking. 2026, 35%? I can't wrap my head around that, honestly. And then by 2035, 100%? No way. No way. Mandy, appreciate you coming on and explaining that to us. That was a fantastic insight. I hope you and your family have a Merry Christmas, and we'll be talking to you again soon. Thanks a lot.
Sounds good. Merry Christmas, Gerard.
We're coming right back, folks, in the Element Wealth.